What's going on, everybody? My name is Nick.
And my name is Dave.
And this is the Deep Dive, and we are in week 2 of our Back to Basics series. And today we're talking a lot about the vision here at Hickory Flat.
That's correct. It's something you know well as well. I mean, you were a part of the vision team.
Absolutely.
So that's been a passion of yours.
Yes.
Living in division and churches living in division. So
Trying to get people aligned, working together.
yeah,
When the church can do that, it's pretty powerful.
yeah, we're got a lot to talk about today. So
Let's get into it.
yeah.
Well, Dave, how did your weekend go? I feel like we haven't caught up too much.
Seems like it was a long way away.
I know.
But yesterday, let me tell you how my Monday went.
Okay.
We're doing this on Tuesday.
Yeah.
My wife had surgery yesterday.
Oh, okay.
She had carpal tunnel, had that surgery, which is really a pretty simple surgery.
Yeah.
And great success and recovery rate. But it's real to her, and it was, she's still going through the pain of recovery. But I was waiting around in the surgery center a lot yesterday. But she's at home doing well.
Was it a long surgery or was it pretty quick?
Oh, probably hour and a half, maybe tops.
Yeah.
Including everything. Yeah.
Well, we definitely hope Teresa recovers quick and as painless as possible.
Sure.
Hopefully they give her some good meds to null that pain out a tad, but
Yeah, she texted me late this morning because I gave her some Tylenol
yeah.
this morning. And she said, I think you gave me Tylenol PM. And I said,
So she's out.
so I said, I did. And you're welcome.
So she'll sleep the rest of the day, hopefully. That was a good call by you, probably.
I saw the 2 bottles. I was going like, I'm going for the
We'll go for the blue one.
sleep well last night.
See,
So yeah.
that'll be good.
Yeah.
Man. That'll be good. Yeah, for me, I mean, I feel like it was just a pretty quick weekend. The girls went out of town to, they got all of Rachel's side of the family's girls got together and they went to go see the Barbie movie. And so I just kind of hung out. It was a pretty quiet weekend for me, which was good,
Super.
Get a little bit of extra rest, but
You didn't go to the Barbie movie?
it was a girls' event.
What, you weren't invited?
I was not invited,
I'm sorry.
so that's okay.
You and I can go.
You want to go to the Barbie movie?
Not really.
Are you going to dress up in pink?
Yeah.
Then I'm not going, Dave.
Okay.
If you're not selling out, I'm not going in.
Yeah.
No, anyway, we're here to talk today about the second week in the series. It's Back to Basics. Again, we're kind of talking on the vision of the church and kind of how it aligns us all together into a common goal. So,
Right.
Dave, why don't you kind of give us started on, kind of what the sermon did, and then we'll dive into it.
So these past 2 weeks, and it was just a 2-week series. We'll start on something else this coming weekend. But it was just a 2-week series taking advantage of the restart of school to sort of realign us and remind us of some really important things. So in some ways, you could say these last 2 sermons have been pretty basic, but they're also incredibly important, and it's hard to live into it. Things come along and get us distracted. Last week, we talked about loving people and loving God.
Yep.
And I used this illustration, which I used the first Sunday that I was here, because I think it helps make a clear point that if we consider this container a church and all the things that could come into a church, is to take all these things out, and all the things that we could put into church, we put in there first. And some of these things like stewardship, theology, Bible study, traditions, social justice, anything that we could put into the church,
Sure.
programs and ministries that go in there. And then somebody say, we're supposed to love God and love people, and we put them in, they won't fit in there. And so, the whole idea behind this is that, we got to get those 2 things in there first. And then, of course, once we do that, then, all the other stuff will fit in there. Hopefully, if not, my illustration correct. But yeah, you can get all of them in there. So that's basically that illustration. I think it makes a point.
Yeah.
Our first thing to do is to love God and to love people.
Right.
But all these other little balls, there are things that we could do, that churches do.
And are important.
And very important.
Yeah.
They all are. And there's some overlap probably with every church as to some of those things that are in there. Most churches have some sort of Bible study. They have some sort of worship services. They have children's ministry or youth ministry, those kinds of things. But there are other things as well. And depending on where a church is context might be, there may be some missions and some outreaches that sort of grow out of their location of where they are,
Right.
that are unique to them. And so what I think vision does is it helps a church sort of look at all of that, look at the demographics, look at the church history, look at the gifts and graces and passions of the people that are attending there, and sort of align it into a vision
Right.
of what they're going to do, where they're going to go.
Yeah.
And so those words like vision and mission, they're kind of church catchphrases, catchwords that have.
And a lot of times they have very kind of churchy words interwoven into them, but I know when we were going through the process, we tried our best to simplify it down to kind of a catchphrase, I guess, of more.
Right. Yeah.
Just something smaller that.
Yeah. And so, I think that's important, it, particularly to be concise and clear. A lot of church visions that I've seen of churches maybe where I've visited, or even churches where I've been a pastor before, walk into the fellowship hall and there would be this huge banner that had this, 3-paragraph long thing that was their church vision statement that no one could ever recite.
Right.
And so we need something that helps us get focused on what our ministry here together at Hickory Flat is going to be. Because there's a lot of things that we could do.
Right.
Important things that we could do.
Absolutely.
And so, the prayer that goes into what is it that God is calling us to at this unique moment in time in 2023 with, the changes and things that are happening in Cherokee County and in our community, coming out of COVID a couple of years now, just all of that sort of coming together to make a composite vision.
And I love something you mentioned on Sunday when you were talking about the fact that we're not unique as a church.
Yeah.
In terms of there's a lot of other churches in our community
that do a lot of the same things we do.
Yeah. There's Bible studies. There's a lot of these things that don't separate, but the process of setting this vision was really about what does Hickory Flats want to do with its gifts and talents. And so I just thought that was a cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is just to bring into focus, I wear contacts.
Mm-hmm.
And I use this illustration on Sundays. So I have monthly, I change them once a month or something like that. And I'm always really procrastinating when to reorder them. So I was down to my last pair. I really need to get contacts.
Oh.
So because I'm having to put the solution in there every night just to, and wear my glasses sometimes just to get through. So I go down to the place, I order my contacts. They come back in, I get them, I put them back in. I can't see anything.
That's not good.
I can't see anything. And so then my wife, I guess, looked at the box, and we're mine are supposed to be +3 or something like that. They were -3, so they were actually kind of the exact opposite than what, and I could not see.
Yeah.
And so everyone, just like every church, has a unique vision that God has sort of gifted and granted you with, and so we need to have something to bring it in focus for us. And so we used as sort of a curriculum, as a guide with the vision team as we were building this, a guy named Will Mancini.
Yep.
And what we were seeking to do is to put it all together in a way that would make sense, building a vision frame. And, everyone knows what a, picture frame is. It's got 4 sides. And just like it has 4 sides, there are 4 parts that make up our, building the vision, putting the vision frame together. And so if you see the different sides of the frame, once you get those sides of the frame into place, then the vision becomes a little more clear, a little more focused, to say a little more a way to articulate.
Right.
And so the first part that we started with was the mission of the church. And somebody might be listening to this who didn't know this or missed Sunday or whatever, but can help us with the difference between a mission and a vision, because we use those things interchangeably sometimes.
Yeah.
Sure speak.
I think a mission is kind of more of a charge, a call of kind of what we're doing, where a vision is more focused on how we do that mission, So I guess kind of the mission would be more of the big overall broad, and then the vision would be the how that lights it up.
More specifically how we are living out the mission in the place and how we're doing it at specific times. One way I've heard it described as a mission is your reason for existence.
Right.
Okay. So Jesus said, and this is all messed around now, but the two main things Jesus said, and I read both of these on Sunday, both are from Matthew's gospel.
Yep.
Jesus said, the greatest commandment when he was asked is love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. Love your neighbor as yourself.
Right.
Love God and love people.
Yep.
That is the great commandment.
Boom.
But there's also the great commission,
right,
also in Matthew, and that is to go and make disciples. And so that's the mission of the church, is to make disciples. That's
right.
what Jesus gave us, his co-mission to us.
Right.
And so the United Methodist Church has a mission statement, which all Methodist churches have, which I would dare say that most churches, whether they're Baptist or Presbyterian or non-denominational, if they've got a mission statement, it has something along these lines, because it's really the mission of the church, universal. And that is to make disciples of Jesus Christ, transformation of the world. That is our mission. That will never change.
Right.
How we live that out, the ministries that we have, all of that may change it sometimes.
Right. We didn't come up with that.
Yeah.
That's God coming up. or Jesus told us this is what we do.
Yeah, this is what my commandment is. Go make disciples.
Right.
Or as Jack Williams would say, be a disciple and make a disciple.
Yep.
And so we are disciples making disciples. And so that was, if you're thinking about the frame, that was sort of the bottom of the frame that we had. And then the top of the frame was the strategy.
Yeah.
And when Matt was here, he sort of introduced this idea of connect, grow, and serve. And so if you're thinking of you think of like a trellis that you put out in your gardening thing to put on, have flowers and stuff grow on.
Yeah.
So you want something sturdy, some sort of strategy, some sort of structure that you can have things grow on.
Right.
And so he had a connect, grow, and serve.
Right.
And so, you say a little bit about that, about how that works here. And,
Yeah. So we have 3 committees and 3 teams that just kind of work in unison to help people connect, grow, and serve. We feel like here at Hickory Flat that's really our pathway to help people become disciples.
Right, exactly.
And then to help other people lead them maybe into that discipleship path is we want you to be in a place where you're growing. Want you to be in a place you're serving and connecting. All 3 of those components, when you bring them together, just build such a beautiful picture of what it's like to be in Christian community, to be the hands and feet of Christ, and to be diving into the Word and learning and developing your own relationship personally.
And so, there's overlap in those things, because they're kind of people you can grow and serve at the same time.
Right.
But grow is more specific to like Christian formation,
right?
That sort of things. Serving is more into our mission and outreach, and then connect is our worship and the hospitality that we show here, but also some of the church-wide events and things that we do. So, and getting people maybe from being a regular attender into being assimilated into being disciples, making disciples here.
Right.
Yeah. So those are the top and the bottom if you're building that frame. And then, so you got the sides. And on one side is where we put our core values. And in our vision work that we did with this small team of people that worked with us, we came up, Will Mancini suggested you need to have 5 core values. And the descriptions, rather than being like a paragraph long or even a sentence long, was to get it down very simple to 2 words.
Yeah, 2-word couplets.
2-word couplets. And so we came up with 5. The other thing was that they had to reflect in a huge way the church's DNA that was already there.
Right.
Only 2 could be aspirational. You might say, well, we're not quite there yet, but this is something we see as a value to
something we want to shoot towards together.
And I would say that Hickory Flat kind of has these 5 in their DNA already. It's who we are.
Yeah.
And so the process of doing this, we had different groups that we went out and had met with and talked with. And one of the groups was out using a weed eater out in our...
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sorry if you guys can hear that out there. You might not be able to, but there sounds like there's a windstorm outside the studio right now. But we'll keep going, and hopefully it won't come out on the video. But yeah, you were talking about these core values, and even a little more is after we kind of interviewed people. I mean, we sat down and it probably was 2 or 3 meetings of just trying to get the right wordings with this and trying to make sure that it encapsulated what we felt like were kind of some of these pillars that our church was already about, but then also a couple, as Dave said, that would just that we'd want to push maybe a little harder with.
Right. I think we could grow in all 5 of the areas.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that nothing was brand new to us.
Yeah.
And those were things that we heard from the congregation. These are the things that are important to us. And so these are in no particular order. But the first one I would say is holistic Bible teaching.
Yeah.
And so, give me a word about that.
So as we were sitting around, we really wanted to focus in on Bible study that wasn't just about head knowledge, that it wasn't just about being able to recite every verse in the New Testament or something, but that it applied to life, and it was something that you could take with you and practice in your own space, but also that it would be just as meaningful in your work life as it is in your church life or your family life as it is, maybe your sports or your extracurriculars or whatever your hobbies are. You know what I mean? Like that it's something that would apply in all areas of life and really pour into it that way. So as we picked our curriculum, as we do our sermons and stuff like that, we want them to touch bases at multiple levels and not just only be about like, oh, here's some knowledge you need to know. No, we want to tell you how to learn that knowledge and then how to apply that knowledge.
So if we are transformed disciples, if we are making disciples for the transformation of the world, and if we are, transforming our own lives and our own hearts, then the Word of God, we need to see how that lives out in our everyday lives.
Yeah.
So, holistic Bible study, not just Bible study, not Bible study that's just going to teach you so you can argue theology or something,
right? But
it's something that's going to make a difference and shape our lives as we make disciples.
Yeah.
The next thing we had, again, not in any particular order, was gracious hospitality.
Yeah.
What is gracious hospitality, Nick?
Well, when you talk about hospitality, you look at it in a lot of ways as just, some people would view it as just welcoming and stuff like that, but we really wanted it to go beyond that, to be a place that is welcoming of any and everybody who walks in, to provide them a safe place to worship, to come to know God. And gracious hospitality is almost being thankful for the opportunity to be able to welcome people. Even, you know what I mean? Like it's that space where you really take it amongst you as the church and go, you know what? I want to help other people, look outside myself. I want to help other people feel comfortable enough to be here and be a part of this body of Christ.
Yeah. And I almost look at it also as grace-filled hospitality,
Sure.
Gracious around that, that we're going to be friendly. We're not just friendly because it's just what our job is to do.
Yeah.
We're going to be friendly because it truly comes from a place of grace in us. We toyed around with the idea. In fact, actually, I think our first draft had radical hospitality, which means like we're going to go out of our way to be hospitable.
Yeah.
But now that we've gotten a year or so into it, I realized and that got pushed back by particularly one group, our young adults, I think, pushed back hard on we don't like that word radical.
Yeah.
And we don't understand.
Well, I think it was that they felt like everything was trying to call itself such an extreme, that's like, it's got to be radical.
Yeah. Well, and also, I think in the kind of current climate that we are now with disaffiliating churches, and we know that we're having, as a church that's not disaffiliating, having people that are coming and visiting here from churches that they're not really ready to be run down by the church. They really just need a place to come and sit.
Sure.
So a gracious hospitality, to me, sort of connotes this idea of we're going to let people be at their own pace.
Yeah.
We're going to be friendly and welcoming and warm and walk with people. But, radical hospitality almost means like you're chasing them down in the parking lot.
And we want to set up easy, clear pathways for them that when they are ready to connect, that they can connect. That's the way we can be hospitable, is by showing people, hey, when you're ready, here's who you talk to, or here's where you go, or whatever. So that was a big focus.
So God sort of helped us live into that one too. Then we had one, and I know this has been huge for you and your leadership as in your role here at the church as executive pastor, working with groups. But that is United in Ministry.
Yeah.
And I know you are always beating that drum, trying to get people to work together. And so we have ministries. We have all these ministries, but we just didn't want them to be done in silos. We wanted to find ways. We're a size church that, intergenerational is pretty cool thing to do, and we see it everywhere. But just having something sort of stated that helps us, focus in on that to get us all together and doing.
Coming out of the youth ministry area, one of the things that was always talked about in like every book that you could read on the topic was how important intergenerational connections were for people to be longstanding members of a church. Even if they didn't always go to your church, they would still stay in church, after college and stuff like that, which is important because we're trying to build the foundation, especially for our younger people, that they'll launch off of, So to find these spaces where we can have fun, good, healthy, meaningful interactions between generations, for our kids, it's good. But I'd even say for our adults, to feel like they still have stuff to pour out and to offer and to mentor and stuff like that is such a cool thing. And, I think we've been doing an okay job at this with some of our recent events and some of our spaces to where, some of the olders have been able to pour into the youngers. I think of like VBSs and mission trips and stuff like that, where people have shown up to cook and to do Bible studies and to do games and stuff like that. Those are beautiful examples of it. But also, I've seen in spaces like worship is, watching a small group leader and the kid come up beside him and just grab a hand and watch and sing together. Like, those are such beautiful moments that when we capture those spaces, it gives everybody purpose if we can be united in ministry.
Right.
And recognizing that we all have something to still offer, and I think we talked about that a little bit last week. But understanding that I don't care how old or young you are, there is something that we can do together to further Christ in this community. And you have a talent, you have an ability that could pour into that. And, there's always the joke of like, oh, the youth could set up a tent. Well, they can, but they also can, paint faces, or they can help lead games and sometimes it's like the older people was like, oh, well, they just need to say, and no, they can go mentor, they can cook, they can clean. Like, there's so much we can all do together that really aligns with people's joys, passions, gifts, all that stuff. And if we put people in the right place, we're setting ourselves up to do something good together.
Yeah, well said. Well said. And I think, you said it all. That works. And so and the next thing, can't remember exactly what we've talked about now, but compassionate outreach is another one.
Mm-hmm.
Again, not just outreach, but compassionate outreach. And to me, that sort of indicates that we're going to be hands-on with what we're doing.
Yeah, really, really.
Our outreach is not going to be just writing a check and sending it someplace.
Right.
There's going to be involvement by us in showing the compassion.
And I think it requires taking an accounting of what does your community need? Like, if we were really to take, or not accounting, an audit of our community, what does it need from the church? We can do any events, we can do any program, we can do all these things, but if the community doesn't need it, is it what we need to be doing? Meeting the community in whatever space. I think that's where Grief Share was kind of birthed out of at some level, is people recognizing a need and going, you know what, we can offer this to people, and I think, there's some spaces, and maybe this is one of probably our continuous aspirational ones, is to continuously try to figure out what our community needs. Because, I would dare say, we used to be a heavy mission church that's built a lot of things, and maybe that's not what our community needs us to be at this time. Maybe our community needs us to be mental health advocates, because that's running rampant in our areas. Who knows what that is, but that is what we talk about when we talk about compassionate outreach, is being committed to finding out what our community needs and helping provide those in spaces.
Yeah. All right, assuming if I got them all, we got
You missed one.
what was that? Okay.
Cultivating community.
Cultivating community. Oh, that's a huge one too.
Yeah.
Cultivating community. And I think this was, and as we were working on the this vision, we were closer to coming out of COVID. In fact, I think we were still in it a little bit.
Yeah, we were like on the tail
We were
end.
tail end of it, and we were coming out of a place where people had been pretty isolated and needing community and yearning for community.
Yeah.
And so so that's creating spaces and places where people can connect together and community can be formed and made.
Yeah, I think also is that we recognized that in our area, and this could even kind of fall under the compassion outreach, it's beautiful how some of these could kind of intertwine a little bit, is that our direct community here in Hickory Flat doesn't have many places for community to just go and be.
Right.
You know, so that really drives a lot of, especially our kind of like our big church gatherings and events, is we try to make it where it can meet the needs of a lot of people. You know, I know we do like the trunk or treat, and our trunk or treat is huge, but we invite the community at large because there's not really, well, I guess there are probably a couple other churches and stuff that are doing it in the area, but you know, we have kind of like a fall festival with it, you know, and that's not me bragging about it, but I think it just meets that need and brings community to us here. But also like one of the goals we set a couple years ago was to do another event. So we did our Christmas Palooza, and I think a couple years before that we did the Christmas is Coming event, because we recognized that there wasn't a place directly like right here in Hickory Flat where Christmas was really majorly being celebrated. So,
well, we also have, you know, community is formed like our soccer program that's here.
absolutely.
You know, and, you know, we have hundreds of kids that come to the soccer program. Our preschool, you know, so preschool families and a lot of relationships and stuff have formed out of that. We've had concerts here. And, you know, and these are things, this is sort of an aspirational, because we do want to grow in that. But you're right. Going back to something you said right at the very beginning, you know, we are in the suburban sprawl, you know, of Metro Atlanta.
Yeah.
And Cherokee used to be kind of a rural community, but now the suburbs have kind of are overtaking it.
Sure.
And so there's not really a town center
Right.
here, particularly in Hickory Flat.
Right.
You know, maybe the public center.
We're kind of in between. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, right. So there's going to be a park that's going to be built right next door to the church. And so, you know, we are kind of in Hickory Flat, sort of at the center.
Yeah.
And so what can we do more to live into that of creating spaces where when people think about like getting together, let's go down to the church.
Right.
And so, you know, that's, I think that was part of the idea behind this. We're building that.
Well, and I also just real quick to add into, you know, I think with cultivating community especially is that we kind of saw it as a multi-tiered thing, because we also wanted to talk, or we also felt it was important to include like building community within the church, you know, within our congregation, but also providing places for people to feel connected and feel like family and stuff like that. So this is kind of one of those, I don't know if it's a double entendre type thing or whatever, but like I said, it just has multiple layers, that it can be our community local, or it could be our community here within the building and helping people.
Well, yeah, and that's one of the places where like United in Ministry is sort of overlaps. You know, trying to find those places. And so, you know, so you got the three sides. You got the mission on the bottom, you know, to make disciples for the transformation of the world. You've got the top where you've got sort of the strategy for how we do that. How do we hang all our, you know, ministry and missions, and it comes out of connect, grow, and serve. Then our core values making up one side of the vision frame, and we just went through those 5. And then the other side, we'll go ahead and talk about that, and then we'll come back to the vision. But the other side was that as we were working on this, that there would need to be goals set.
Right.
And, you know, we have some pretty big goals and long-term goals and all that sort of stuff. But for the sake of building a vision frame, what are some short-term achievable goals?
Yeah.
They can push us, but they're also not something that's like, you know, we want to share, you know, 10,000.
Yeah, we want a $400 million building put up back.
But something that was achievable, they could do, that we can mark along the way. They were like 3 months, 6 months out. These are the goals that are going to get us further down the road in making disciples.
Right.
And so, we have sat down 2 different times, sat down with leadership and staff and come up with, about three goals that were that we sort of worked on for 6 or 9 months.
Right.
We'll talk about that a little bit more at the end.
Sure.
And so that just sort of helps us along the way, kind of like mile markers along the way. So we know we're making progress because this is living into this vision. And so when we built those 4 sides of the frame, then it actually was like 1/2 of one meeting to be able to come up with the actual vision statement.
Yeah, it kind of just popped out
It kind
eventually
of wrote itself
as we looked at the words and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
and so it is to empower hope, joy, and purpose.
Yep.
And we can make it longer to empower the hope, joy, and purpose of Christ. But we thought that was implied.
Yeah.
We could say it to our community, but just empower hope, joy, and purpose.
Right.
Is something that we all can remember,
right,
and live into. And so, that's what we're looking for. We look at the world today, and people, there's, it's pretty tough out there.
Mm-hmm.
They need hope. They need to find a joy that's not just based on happiness, just on circumstances, but a joy that comes deep from a life of going in Christ. And they need to have, purpose.
Yeah.
What is my reason for living? How am I making a difference in this world? How do I connect there? And so that kind of came into play there.
Yeah. Don't discount the word empower though, because
yes, absolutely.
I think that's such a key word for those other 3 words, because, in all of what we're doing, we're hoping we find places that we're empowering hope, that, that through our Bible studies, through our worships, through some of these events, that you feel hope in some of these maybe harder times, and we're a place where you can find true joy and community and relationship and in your love in Christ and your relationship deepening with Christ. And then purpose is, a lot of us come to some point in our lives where we go, why am I here? What is it that I've been gifted to do? And our hope is to empower you to find those spaces, I love the way Will Mancini put it, is that it's kind of like a training ground. Sometimes church feels like a training ground at some level.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beautiful part about that word empower, because it just brings all the other words, the hope, joy, purpose. And it's like, yeah, we're trying to do that here together. It's like the glue piece of it all.
Yeah. And so we've had a couple of times that we've set those goals. So just talk a couple about them, brag on a few people. But I think out of the first year we had several goals, and I think we mostly met most of them. But the big one I think that really stuck and last is the Christmas Palooza.
Sure.
We created another event for the churches out of that, and so
I think that same year we said we were going to do 10 Bible study groups as well.
Yeah,
and I think we met that one. There was an attendance goal, I think, of maybe 20 or 30 additional people
between members
that we had joined the church through this, and we met that as well. So our first run through, we did really good.
Yeah. And so this last time, one of the things we've been focusing on is being united in ministry.
Yeah.
And there is, and I've been in several churches like this, and it is one of the risks in church of when things are going well and people are really excited about their programs, is to sort of get off into silos.
Sure.
And so you have an outstanding music ministry and an outstanding children's ministry and an outstanding senior, but you never see those ever working together or doing together. And then you almost have like staff members competing for resources around those things. And, that can cause problems. And so we, want to choose intentionally to look for places where we can work together and be united in those things. Yeah, there's going to be times where children's going to do children's stuff, and, you get their music people have to do their, rehearsals and stuff. But there are some things that we can do. And if we had an event that was happening already, that we can open it up to be more church-wide.
Yeah.
And so there's some great examples of this, and I listed a couple of them on Sunday, but, I have to brag on Sarah Roberts, because it seems like she has had that like posted on her bathroom mirror or something, because she has all year long looked for ways of doing that with the youth ministry. And most recently was a big event for senior adults that the youth sponsored. It was a big cookout.
Yeah.
My bluegrass band played. It was such a great event. They had more people than they had prepared food, that signed up and prepared food for.
Right.
It ended up being just a huge success.
Yeah.
And just a super example. The other is the Wildflower Sunday School class. There was a need some women saw for having a Bible study Sunday school class just for women.
Yeah.
Because there were many widows or single people that needed that, and then
you didn't feel comfortable maybe going to some of these Sunday schools that had couples in it.
So that class has grown and thrived really, and lots of things have come out of there. But they decided they wanted to do a retreat. But then they said, we need to open this up, not just for us, not to go off on our own silo and do this. We need to open it up for the whole church, to any woman who might be able to come.
Yeah.
And so they've done that. And I think that's a united ministry against a great example of that.
Yeah.
The other is some stuff that's going on with our for lack of a better word, congregational care. We have a very caring, compassionate church, and there were a lot of things happen, meal trains and Stephen ministries and prayer circles and people going out and doing work in people's yards and that sort of things. And it was like, we need to be united in this. How can we be, we want people to keep doing everything they're doing, but we don't want anybody to slip through the cracks.
Right.
That's great. Who can we identify that might need some care at different levels?
Yeah.
We don't have many, what I would call shut-ins, but people that might need a little more attention or care, people that might be, have a spouse or somebody going through cancer. What are some things that we can do to organize together? And so that's still going on. I mean, they're still meeting and refining that and coming up with, a shared Google document, all this stuff to make that happen and do that more effectively.
Right.
That is united ministry, and it's that compassion and outreach and all those other good parts.
It meets a variety of our pillars and stuff like that. And these are good things for us to kind of, as a church, keep in mind, and especially these goals, the kind of like snowball things is as you do some things, it starts building up other stuff. So, as we talk about vision, as we kind of wrap this up, this is something you're going to hear, and you're going to keep hearing it, probably quite often, because it's important for us to be able to maintain and keep our eyes on what the vision is, because it's real easy to kind of get siloed or to lose that focus because we got a million other things going on.
A lot of our groups, as they're meeting now, they have sort of as a beginning, they are actually reading through the mission and vision of the church and the core values of the church to remind them of who we are. And so that's helping us live into it more and more. And you'll hear me or Nick or Sarah or somebody on Sunday morning referring to it as well, different parts of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, is there anything else to kind of talk about through vision, or do you want to?
If you weren't there on Sunday, I do, just for the sake of the graphics, maybe have you go back. I might send Frankie, as he's editing this, to a couple of slides, because maybe when we talk about vision frame, it's not really clear. To me, that's a really clear example. Makes it kind of come alive. The other thing, just to promote this a little bit, is we are moving into a new sermon series this Sunday. And looking at holistic Bible teaching, I am beginning a message series called The Space Between Us. We have a lot of fractured and broken relationships within families, within different parts of our society. We all, we have this kind of growing space between us, and it happens in every family, happens in relationships at work and at school and neighborhoods and stuff. So I'm trying to find, what are some practical examples in the Bible of how we can do better with that, looking at things like gossip, about how we speak to one another with the words we use, about things like jealousy, about forgiveness. How do we offer forgiveness and accept forgiveness when it's so hard, when we've been so hurt, or the other person won't receive it? And so those are just some of the topics that we'll be looking over the next few weeks. So hope you can either watch online or be here in person.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I know this is one of our longer podcasts as I'm looking down at the time. So if you made it this far, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for supporting the podcast, but also thank you for listening in about the vision, because we do think that this is a big, important part of our church and how we move forward together. So, but other than that, you guys know where to find us in community. You know where to post if you have a question. Drop it in the comments to the email, all that good stuff. Dave, I think you want to wrap us up?
I think we've been long enough today, Nick.
Well, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll catch you next time.
God bless.